At the end of October, the original deadline for Brexit agreement expired. Hardly noticed because of the US election. But the negotiators are still fighting for a deal. Boris Johnson could also use that very well. The election thriller has temporarily pushed the corona pandemic out of the headlines. Another event has fallen even further into the shadows: Brexit. It's still not clear how the UK is leaving the EU. The fact is, all the deadlines and ultimatums that existed have so far passed without consequences. A deal should actually have been in place by the end of October, so that it could still be ratified by the national parliaments. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson even threatened to refrain from negotiating if there was no agreement by mid-October. Apparently, it wasn't more than a bluff, because negotiator David Frost is still sitting at the negotiating table. At the weekend, Frost discussed again with EU negotiator Michel Barnier. According to the newspaper The Times, the Britain reaffirmed that work will continue on solutions that fully respect the sovereignty of Great Britain. It won't be easy. The talks have got stuck on the well-known points of contention, such as fishing rights and fair competition. Barnier therefore warned, according to the paper, that the British are playing a dangerous game with their daring negotiating tactics. According to Barnier, there are still very serious deviations from the essential conditions of the EU, and the EU is prepared for all scenarios, said Barnier. Is that just a bluff, just from the EU side this time? It does not seem like the European Commission proves with its latest economic forecast. The experts there assume that there will be no trade pact. For the British economy, the Commission is forecasting growth of 3.3% in the coming year and 2.1% for 2022. These predictions are below previous predictions. With the economy expected to slump by 10.3% this year, the British basically need every percentage point of recovery. EU Economic Commissioner Paolo Gentiloni emphasized that this scenario is essentially only a technical assumption. Nonetheless, the forecast signals that the marginal possibility of a no-deal Brexit has mutated into an expected scenario. Gentiloni nevertheless confirmed that the negotiations could still be successful. For this, at least in the opinion of negotiator Barnier, the UK would have to do more on the disputed points. Barnier does not completely rule out a hard Brexit either. Skepticism is also growing on the part of forex and analysts. Commerzbank expert Tula Nguyen expects both sides to come together in the end, at least on part of an agreement, in order not to completely collapse trade relations. Then the no-deal Brexit risks would be priced out of the British pound, and the miserable performance this year would be offset somewhat. However, the analyst also writes, there is a high risk that the pound will suffer significantly more severe setbacks than our forecasts suggest due to rising no-deal Brexit risks. Increased exchange rate volatility is to be expected, especially towards the end of the year when the UK is about to leave the EU internal market. Nguyen points out that both sides should basically prefer a deal. Johnson should see it that way too. Nonetheless, the Prime Minister continues to ignite and simply does not dispel doubts about this intention. The crucial question, the Handelsblatt in Germany recently noted, is now whether Johnson will not deviate from his previous line in the Brexit negotiations. Johnson also turned around in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic, although the massive encroachment on public and private life hardly matches his libertarian attitude, according to the paper. It remains to be hoped that when it comes to Brexit, Johnson will act less after the applause of the hardliners and more according to political reason. The pandemic is also the reason why Johnson needs the deal more than ever before, because the second lockdown threatens the second economic downturn. With 1.126 million cases so far, the country has held up marginally better than hotspots such as France or Italy. With 48,000 dead, the UK has by far the most victims in Europe, as data from the US University of Johns Hopkins show. The second lockdown there, to which Johnson was ultimately persuaded, is correspondingly harsh. In Germany, 2 households can still meet for the most part without any problems. In the UK, on the other hand, since Thursday, citizens should not meet at all, except with members of their household or at most someone who lives alone and otherwise no longer has any social contacts, in the so-called support bubble. Unlike in this country, trade on the island kingdom will also be reduced to the necessary minimum for a month. So Johnson has enough reasons not to let the economic bridge to Europe collapse, and that in less than 8 weeks at the end of the transition phase. After all, Johnson still has one last reprieve. The EU announced that there was still time for a deal until mid-November. Barnier has promised to negotiate until the last minute. And now we have another incentive for Boris Johnson. He should really think about what it means to have a President Joe Biden in the Oval Office from January. And if you now want to know more about European or global politics, YouTube has chosen another of my videos right here for you on the end screen, right next to your chance to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in my next video. Click and enjoy. Viel Spaß!